All right. Here we are. It is From the Margins with your star, James Safan, and your host, David Washington.
Okay,
You like that, Jimmy?
star, whatever. Uh, yes. So this week we're going to talk a little bit different. We're going to talk about tariffs and
Yes.
how they and who's paying for this. Let's start for what a tariff was created and what it really is. You want to protect your local products, so basically you make the ones that come in more expensive so they don't compete with your products.
True.
That's the basis of the reality of a tariff. Now, example of that, people say, but Biden left certain tariffs. He did on Chinese cars because the people in Detroit kept telling him, look, this is going to hurt us if you allow us to come in. And the people from even South Korea who produce your Buicks and other cars also told him this would be, kill the industry. So,
Sure.
according to the information we all have, it's a much cheaper car. It's a much better car, and they're afraid that like happened when Japan was allowed to bring in their cars to the U.S. People thought, well, there's no way any country can compete with Detroit. Well, Detroit's still paying the price of that stupidity.
Yeah.
So that's a good reason for a tariff. Good tariff would be, hey, we produce here Jack Daniels, and you want to bring scotch from Scotland or from other places or whiskeys from other places, we will put a tariff on that one just to make that scotch or that whiskey more expensive than Jack Daniels. Okay, that's a good reason for a tariff. What the moron is doing, I'm sorry, what President Trump is doing is he's using it as a negotiating instrument, threatening people to do. You don't do this, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And by the way, at the end, I'm going to give you the solution. It's relatively simple. It
Okay.
is. Uh, so, what happens to this? Well, Canadians have 25%, but he updated it this week to 25 to 50% on steel and aluminum because the steel
Yes.
industry said you need to increase it. And let me explain something that's interesting that nobody's going to tell you, but I am. Before he did this week 50%, it was at 25%. And you would say, well, okay, he got pissed off because the people in Canada were not responding. Oh, they're responding, and very well. And I'm going to tell you how they're responding. Uh, it is in a very simple way. It was that the aluminum and steel, even with a 25% surcharge,
Right.
was cheaper than the steel and aluminum that we produce in this country. Okay, so they said it's not working. They're still buying the everything else, so we're going to increase it. Now, I'm going to stay here for a moment. Those of you who go to Dollar Tree, okay, those of you who go to Dollar Tree, pick up something that most of you have not realized. If you go to the section when they have the aluminum plates that you use to put things in heat up in the oven or take food and covers that are made out of aluminum, they're no longer $1.25. Look at the price. It says $1.75. So
Yeah.
why is that? Because those products come from Canada, and they already
Yes.
had a 25 tariff. So who's
That's
paying that 25 tariff? You
yeah.
and me. So when they say, like President Trump says, that Walmart should eat it, Walmart does not work on a margin of a profit of 25%. It really doesn't. Okay, it's more in volume. So when you say to them, "Hey, eat this or eat that," you have a problem. The other thing, avocados, okay, come from
Mhm.
Mexico. If you go to Publix, they're more expensive than they were last month.
That's
They're
true.
the same avocados. Why? It's because from Mexico you pay 25% tariff. Here we go again. Who's paying it? It's not Trump. It is us. Look, this is the way a tariff works. You bring in your products, and we're going to add at the border a 25% surcharge to your price. And The person who buys it from you is paying that. So I am the middleman who's buying these products to resell them. I pay the 25%. And what do? I pass it to the consumer. It's we are paying for this, and we're paying for it in a worse way than we can think of. The other thing that's happening here is that this Monday there's a threat that they're going to go back up to 50 and 60 and 70 and 80%. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Now, Nike left, John Deere left, and other companies are leaving simply because of the tariffs. Okay, it's as simple as that. They
Apple.
cannot compete worldwide when the rest of the world say, okay, you gave me 25% tariffs, your products, when they come in here, they're going there.
Correct.
The other person who is paying, other than the consumer and other than the countries, is the people who work. Okay, let's get this clear. Give you an example. I'm going to stay with Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels right now laid off many employees, over 100, because the production that they made for Canada has not been picked up. The Canadians have decided to say, US, fuck you. I'm not going to buy your products.
Mm-hmm.
An example of those, and I'm going to give you numbers so people don't say, oh, where is it coming up? McDonald's put out and took down an order for the little boxes where they prepare the hamburgers that were sent to Canada, that were made in Ohio and were transported over the what you would call it, Lake Erie to Canada. Okay, they were put on ships. They canceled that. The factory had to leave people go because people in Canada are saying, we're not buying American anymore. Simply, we're not buying it.
Wow.
That same thing has happened to Coca-Cola, who has left off employees who were doing labeling. Coca-Cola that were done in the United States, those people lost their jobs. Why? Because of tariffs. So now we have in Ohio and in Atlanta people losing their jobs because in Canada they don't want to deal with the tariffs anymore, and they just are sick and tired of the way the Americans are disrespected. Jack Daniels left employees go too, over 100. And here's the most interesting thing. Heinz.
Yeah.
Well, what's the Heinz have to do with anything? Which comes out of Ohio. Has reduced its production of the labels that were saying product of Canada to try to sell them in Canada because they're not selling. People still associate Heinz with the U.S. Oreo cookies. Closed down the factory in Canada and moved it to Mexico. And basically what has happened is that they thought they would just bring the cookies from Mexico to Canada and sell them. They left about 300 people unemployed in Canada. As a matter of fact, the factory was in Quebec, and the Canadians say, you're gone? Fuck you. So basically, it is not only us paying for this tariffs just because of a threat. It's that we are losing jobs in this country because of this tariff. We are production is down. Example: Chevrolet is selling less cars. Chevrolet, Dodge, and GM are selling less cars. There, people are buying other cars. Tesla, when they say it's down, it's not only down in the United States. Tesla is down worldwide, and in Canada significantly.
Yeah.
So what has happened is that basically these tariffs have created an animosity between two countries, and one of the countries has responded differently than the other. One is say, you are going to screw with me, screw your products. I don't want anything to do with American products. Canadians make whiskey. They don't need Jack Daniels. Canadians have a royal crown. Ever heard of it? Yes, they do. It's a Canadian product. As a matter of fact, I'll give you one that's even more interesting. Canada Dry. Where does that come from? Canada. So they stopped using Coca-Cola. They stopped using others. So they, as a matter of fact, Starbucks has let go in Canada more than 200 employees because of the same thing. And their margin of profit in Canada is making it no longer profitable. So the truth of the matter is the tariffs is not just a negotiating thing. It's people's well-being. It's people's salary are being significantly impacted. It's irresponsible. And when people send me comments, well, tell me somebody that has been affected, go to Canada and they'll tell you how many people have been affected. Go to Ohio. Go to Tennessee and say, hey, because the Canadians are not buying Jack Daniels, is it true that you had to let more than 100 people go? Yes, true. Is it true that the Oreo cookies that have been selling to Canada are not selling? Yeah, it's true. Is it true that the people who make the labels in Atlanta to send to Canada, same product of Canada, there's less production? Yeah, that is true. So basically, it is a thing. Now,
Right.
if you feel that there's a disloyal competition, if you feel there's a trade deficit, which is a lot of bullshit, only a moron would think that a country like the United States, which is the most consumer-oriented country in the world,
Correct.
the country that purchases more than anybody else is the U.S. But what do? We think that if I sell to Vietnam $100 million and I purchase from them $2 billion, that there's a deficit? Of course. So I promise you that there will be a. You want to end the deficit? You want to end the trade deficit? Stop buying junk that you don't need. One.
Thank
Two,
you.
buy American. Yes. It's kind of interesting. We want Americans to produce here in the factories, but we don't buy. Right now, the third thing that you could do is demand from your companies to produce it here, or otherwise you won't buy it from them. But unfortunately, Jeff Bezos and Amazon, 80% of the products that they're selling you are not made in the United States.
That's correct.
You go on Temu, yeah, it comes from China. But who's buying from Temu more than anybody else? U.S.
That's right.
So
That's right, sir.
very simple.
Fast fashion.
Tariffs are eating into our fiber and is our fault. We are allowing a person like Peter Navarro, who has an interesting story. Peter Navarro got to the White House because Trump went on Amazon and found that the man had written 2 books about tariffs in China and decided to hire him.
That's correct.
Qualifications, he has none. Is he an economist? Well, yes, you can say. Does he have a crazy view? Yes. Even the guy from CNBC, the guy with the crazy stand, John.
I know what you're talking about. It'll come to me. Yes.
Says that he's crazy and that his terrorists are stupid. But that's the guy first. A person who's a convicted criminal also happens to be the person who's behind this. Look, I'm going to say this. Tariffs is not a good instrument to persuade people. But the biggest problem that tariffs has is that I'm going to go to the second part. Because if somebody pays for it, somebody has to benefit. And here is the second part. Who benefits from it? I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Right now, there was a deal cut with Vietnam. And what did Vietnam give in exchange to cut their what you would call it, the tariffs that they were imposed of almost 100%? Very interesting. They gave Ho Chi Minh City a skyscraper for the Trump company and another one in Saigon. They also agreed to allow Elon Musk to come in with his prior starlight of internet,
Correct.
which they had said no at the beginning, just in exchange to get away from the terrorists. So the Trump and his corrupt family are benefiting from it.
I didn't
Okay,
know that. Okay.
people don't know that. They think that it's something interesting. Look, uh, the one and by the way, the one in Saigon is even more interesting. They they have given a permit to the Trump family business to build a golf resort. They have sold them the land at a very cheap price.
Mm.
So basically, that's it. The other thing that is being discussed among Republicans is that if you donate between $4 to $5 million, your product can get exempt. In other words, I'll give you an example. You want to say Canada's 50% for all aluminum and steel, but the John Smith Company is exempt from this requirement. So all the aluminum that comes from John Smith Company does not have to pay the 50%. That is
Mm.
something that the law allows you. It is legal. And since we know how they work, let's get it clear. That's how the family works. Look, there was a gentleman who was convicted of fraud, of investment fraud,
Okay.
who donated $1.8 million to the Trump campaign and recently got pardoned. Not because he was a good guy, but even worse, the mother of a convicted felon who pled guilty to taking away funds from senior citizens and his employees for an extravagant lifestyle that he had. His mother went to the recent dinner in Mar-a-Lago, paid $1 million, got access to Donald Trump, and the next afternoon, her son was pardoned. Now let's get this clear. Mar-a-Lago, what you the $1 million to meet and mingle with the president, does not go to a political campaign, is not used for anything else but for Mr. Donald Trump's profit. So, hey, you can buy a pardon for $1 million. Donald Trump sells them. Give him $1 million, and you can be pardoned no matter what crime you've committed. As a matter of fact, to throw some smoke in there, he pardoned somebody from your hometown, Chicago.
Larry Hoover
Okay, so
commuted his sentence.
that is what we like to call smoke thing. Oh, well, I pardoned 10 whites, but I also pardoned one black. Hey, yeah, yes. So that is who is benefiting. Right now, we also know that there's no tariffs for Quad.
Mm-hmm.
There's no for AUE, United Arab Emirates, and for Saudi Arabia. Why? Well, they gave him a jet. Well, they let him put property there. Yeah, they put a skyscraper there. Yeah, somehow they bought into his uh, crypto money.
Right.
As a matter of fact, just to stop saying how bad this is getting, Jeff Bezos from Amazon paid $40 million for the rights of the story of Melania Trump. Who gives a shit
Really?
about the life history of Melania Trump? I don't. Most Americans don't. Most Americans want their checks. They don't give a shit about Melania Trump.
Right.
But
$40 million, Jimmy.
$40 million, the most he's ever paid for any movie that he's made.
$40 million.
Yes. Yes. So, having finished that, let me bring it local. our sheriff here in Osceola County just got arrested
That's correct.
for conspiracy to commit fraud,
Racketeering.
racketeering, excuse me,
Yes,
and at the sum of almost $22 million.
that's correct.
He is in Lake County with no bond. The chief law enforcement officer of Osceola County, the sheriff of Osceola County, who more than anybody else in Central Florida was taking down illegals and going on YouTube and going on other programs and telling everybody how good he was in law enforcement and that the rest of the people in this state sucked. He was going down in Spanish, telling the people in Puerto Rico that if he could take care of their crime down there, and they had to stop giving rights to people's and just taking away those rights, and they'll see their crime go down.
Right.
Murray, God, how can you do that with a straight face when you are so corrupt? You see, what I'm trying to tell my listeners, and I'm going to repeat myself again, your problem is not the federal employees. Your problem is not cutting $9 billion out of the budget by firing people that are federal employees. $9 billion, it might sound stupid what I'm about to say, is peanuts compared to the $3 trillion that we're going to pay because of the cuts, so the rich can pay less taxes. I'm going to say this again. We're going to take $3 trillion deficit just so the rich can pay less taxes. Very simple, simple. If you take in less and you spend more, that's a deficit. So basically, if you're going to cut the budget and I mean your income in $3 trillion, you might want to cut your budget in $4 trillion. But you can't, because you're so corrupt in the Congress and in the Senate that they have people with putting money in their pockets that they're not going to cut. So basically, at this point, your problem is not federal employees. It's corrupt congressmen, corrupt senators, and a corrupt president who is benefiting and taking money, putting it in their pockets at your expense. So if you really want to talk about a solution, get rid of all. And by the way, I'm not saying Republicans, so don't get defensive of your comments that there's corrupt Republicans and Democrats, both of them. Just get rid of them. As a matter of fact, if you could start from scratch on both parties, I'm all for that. But the truth of the matter is that your problem is not federal employees. Your problem is not woke. You see, those of you who understand magic, let me talk to you about this so you don't think about that. The reality is that they're stealing your money, they're putting it in their pockets, and they're using it to benefit the rich at the expense of the poor. Again, the attitude is fuck the poor from the Republicans and from Congress. And the truth of the matter is there's not only Republicans, there's some Democrats that need to go too. And yes, I admit that I sympathize with the ideals of the Democratic Party, but I'm not necessarily in agreement with the leadership of the Democratic Party.
And Jimmy, to support your case against tariffs and for those naysayers in our comments, and again, we appreciate your comments and we want to have that conversation.
Sure.
However, I'm going to bring some facts to support what Jimmy is saying, and I'd like our commentators to address that. The Yale University's Budget Lab has estimated that U.S. households, us Americans, will experience a consumer loss of $3,800 per year. This is in 2024 dollars due to the 2025 tariffs. Let me repeat, a reduction of $38,000 per year due to the 2025 tariffs. Households at the bottom of the income distribution level will face annual losses of approximately $1,700. And so, you know, this conversation, that we're having, and these are numbers that are presented by independent sources, are letting us know that these tariffs, on average, about 23% across the board, on average, across the board, the highest since 1909, are going to have a significant effect on American households.
Well, and look, let me say this in a simpler way. People, you have a product like tin foil things that you put in your oven that come into the cross the border from Canada, and they're tacked on 25% more. Dollar Tree was selling it for $1.25 and making a decent profit. But now that it has to pay 25% more for that product, now if you just look, you walk into the store, you don't have to say, "Oh, you're lying." Walk into Dollar Tree, look, and it will tell you $1.75. That's the tariffs. There's nothing else in there that has that. And it's simple math. If I'm paying more for a product, it's more expensive. Sorry, it's just as simple as that. The problem that the American public does not want to accept is that it's become addicted. We have become addicted to products that come from outside of the United States.
Correct.
Most of our stuff comes from outside of the United States because it's cheaper to buy things from outside of the United States than things that are produced in the United States. Because the people, let's say, and I'll give you an example, very simple, in Vietnam, they are paid less money per hour than people are paid here to do that. Do you realize that there's no shoe factories? No shoe factories in the United States. Period. There are none.
There goes my Nikes.
Nikes are produced in Vietnam, and they're about $200, between $100 and $200, depending which ones you want. Those same shoes, if they were produced in the United States, would be $500. So basically, that's it. FIFA come from South America, and so on and so on. As a matter of fact, the last tennis shoes that was interesting, Converse used to have the factory in Puerto Rico. Okay, for those of you who did not know, Converse would move from the United States to Puerto Rico because it was cheaper to produce them there. Then, when Puerto Rico started to demand a decent pay, they moved to the Philippines. Look, let's stop pretending that the industries care about us. Let's stop pretending that the industries care about our environment. The industries care about their bottom line. How can I make more money? And if you really, really, really are concerned about this, stop buying what you don't need. And second, stop buying products that are not made here. I know it's going to be difficult because there's no shirts made here. There's no shoes made here. There's a lot of things that are not made here. I understand that. Okay? As a matter of fact, the joke was that the other day somebody says, "Oh, I'm buying Hanes underwear because they're made in America." You might want to check that one out. So,
even the underwear
is made outside. Look, I like to joke about this, but the other day I went with the wife to Kohl's and she was looking around, and I said, "Oh, let me spend some time." Look, and all the shirts for men were made in China.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're going to Kohl's, the Great American Dream, and you're going to buy clothes there at 70, 80% discount, you're buying for all the tennis shoes. We know that we don't make tennis shoes in the United States. We know that.
Right.
So basically, whose fault is that? Theirs or ours? So if you really want to stop this, start buying America. Now you're going to say to me, "Well, I can't buy a shirt. I cannot find underwear. I cannot find shoes." Say, yes, but who's responsible for that? Us.
Okay, Jimmy. Okay, now taking that. So if we want to protect our economy, if we want to reduce the trade deficit and reduce the budget deficit, which we have to admit, $36, $37 trillion is a heavy load a big drawdown on our economy, we have to have a paradigm change, a fundamental change in our consumer behavior. You said, okay, stop buying things that are made out of America. I agree. I had my experiment with Timo, and I was able to get a shipment of a whole bunch of things that some of them I did not need. However, Timo say, hey, this is going to be, cheap or free or discount or whatever, add it to your cart. I say, okay, let me try this out. And the vast majority of that, of those items that were sent to me, again, I didn't really need, and they did not function the way that I was hoping they would. They were garbage, and they sit if I haven't already, thrown it away. So I know that with fast fashion, which 17% of the increase in apparel has come from the tariffs, that Americans love certain things, and it's going to be very difficult to change our consumer buying habits. This is going to be, I think, a generation in the works, to
All right.
be honest. And it starts with each individual person. What do we need versus what do we want? How do we start that? And I think I already know the answer to that.
We started by just look. I'm going to say this.
Hmm.
Take the example of Canada. There's been no campaign to stop buying America. There's been no campaign to stop buying America. What has happened is that they walk into a store, they have Canada Dry or Coca-Cola, they pick Canada Dry.
Hmm.
They have the option of going to their local supermarket or going to Walmart. They go to their local supermarket. They they know because everybody in the country knows that Oreo said, "Screw you all," closed down the factory in Quebec and moved it to Mexico. Then send the cookies made in Mexico to Quebec and say, "Hey, here's your Oreos." They say, "Fuck you! You did this to me. I'm not buying you." So it is us. Nobody made a campaign in Canada. The beauty of
Right.
this is that nobody made a campaign in Canada. Uh, People in Canada liked the Jack Daniels. They liked our products and they were buying them. And all of a sudden, when they realized that the U.S. government was screwing with them, they screwed back. So maybe it's time for us to say, hey, President Trump, I'm going to back you. I'm not going to buy anything that's foreign. It's nothing much to buy left, but I'm going to back you. I'm not. I'm going to do this the right way. But the truth of the matter is, it's going to take us. But there's another area that Americans youth is showing us the way. Look, there's a lot of young people who will not buy products that they think are not good for the environment.
Okay.
The other day, I had a 40-year-old in a meeting tell me he doesn't buy from Amazon because of the way they treat their employees. I'm like,
Okay.
whoa, you know. So it's a change of mind. Do I really want to buy some products that are not good for the environment? Do I really want to buy from somebody who treats his employees with total disrespect? Look, Amazon's having problems in Canada too, simply because they unionized in Canada, and Jeff Bezos closed down his distribution center and moved it to Detroit, and now everything goes through Detroit to Canada. So
Right.
basically, yes. And the Canadians said, "Oh, that's what you're doing? Screw you! I'm not buying from you." It's a very simple thing. Look, if you stop buying from Bezos, he's going to have to adjust Amazon to what you want, not to what he wants to sell you. If you do the same with Hanes, with Oreos, with everybody else, and say, "Look, or either you produce them here, or I'm not buying," fine. Just pick up your package. It will tell you if that package of Oreos was made here or if it was made in Mexico. Now,
Okay.
obviously, you're going to have a problem with certain products. Look, there's
Sure.
no avocados in the United States. There's no coffee in the United States. Let's start by that. We
Two
don't
of my
produce, as a matter of
favorites.
fact, we don't produce tea. Okay, that it's okay.
Right.
So yes, you have to make certain exceptions because I cannot live without my coffee. Okay,
Yes,
I don't know about
sir.
you, but without my coffee, I am
Oh,
a pain in the neck. So that is something that needs to be done and needs to be done now. You need to change your way you buy. You don't need it, don't buy it. If it's something that basically you, hey, just send an email to Amazon, say, hey, put down which products are made here in the United States. And you're going to be surprised. Dell, there's only two people that make laptops here.
Yeah.
That's Dell
Yeah.
and Nano. Most people don't even know about Nano,
No.
but there's two. Okay. Is there anybody here who makes the screens that we're using right now? No. As a matter of fact, the cameras that we're using for these programs, they're not made here.
I got a Sony.
Okay.
I got a
Sony's
camera.
not you. Sony's not from the US. Sony is from Japan.
Right.
And then the other joke is even simpler. We have more viewers in TikTok than we have in YouTube. So go figure.
Go figure. Go
Okay.
right. Go figure. Exactly. And how long will we have TikTok? That's a whole different story.
Oh no. TikTok will have for a good period of time. It's well known that when the president became president, the owners of TikTok gave him some money and he entered an executive order.
Right.
The owners of TikTok know how to deal with the corruption of the Trump administration, so I'm not worried about TikTok going away.
Right.
Just give the money to the Trumps and everything is fine. But what is interesting is that people complain about these things, and you have a way to do this in a simple way. Just stop buying products that are not. Now you got to tell it. Coffee is not something that is grown here. You're right. Tea is not grown here. You're right. Avocados are not grown here. Mangoes are not grown here. I'll go further. Okay. Also, be careful what I like to call products that you think are grown are from here.
Right.
That are not. Little Debbie is still here. Enterman is still from here. But cookies like Chips Ahoy, like Oreos, are not necessarily made here. Just so you understand that. Now, do you want to do the same things to the Canadians that you're doing to them, that they're doing to us? That I can relate to. I wouldn't do it because we started the fight. We were the bullies, and they're reacting to us being bullies. So, yeah.
Jimmy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jimmy. And I don't know if this is a victim of the tariffs or the outcome of the tariffs. However, very locally here in Central Florida in Orange County, I'm seeing and hearing about a lot of closures of restaurant closures, and I've seen it reported about people eating out less, and maybe that's because costs have gone up for not just only labor, but also the cost of the ingredients to make dishes, to make entrees, and so forth and so on. And so I just wanted your opinion on that. Well, my favorite habits of eating.
Okay, let's start from one thing. I said this many times, and people will say, well, there was somebody who commented in one of our things, well, the prices of eggs have come down. Well, not really. It came down from $6 to $4 a dozen. But when Trump entered into office, the cost of a dozen of eggs was less than $2. Just so everybody knows. We still have a problem with that. And what has happened is that now the places that use eggs for food are having to increase their prices, and people are not going there. Look, it's kind of interesting, but we all know that the biggest problem is that prices are going up in restaurants. And we're assuming that the owners of the restaurants are some greedy people who want more money. Well, a lot of these products come from other places. Let me start from one of them. Your frozen seafood does not come from Boston and does not come from Florida. It comes from the countries. If you go into Aldi's and you pick up the bags of seafood that is frozen, they just look where it comes from. It's kind of interesting because the other day they had crab cakes that were made of all places, in Indonesia. So that's kind of interesting.
Indonesia.
Indonesia, yeah.
Okay.
Go figure. And the same thing happens. They have gelato that is made in Canada. It's not from
Okay.
Italy, but it's from Canada. So it's just a matter of where the products come from. We tend to
Right.
think that all ice cream is local. It's not true too. So when people tell me our price is increasing, yes, the syrups for ice creams are not made here; they're made outside, and they're paying tariffs. So everything's going up. Can you really afford to say to people, "Hey, last week you had dinner here, and it was $50 for you and your wife, and that included drinks, and now you're having the same dinner here, and for the record, it's now $72. Wait a minute, I mean the same thing. Why is it more? Because the meat is more expensive. The produce that does not necessarily come from the U.S. Look, most of our produce in this country comes from Mexico. Yes, we
Right.
have some produce here, and Florida it's not cheap. And by the way, Florida farmers, you put up some good commercials with Publix, but boy, are you people really deceiving and lying to us.
Ooh.
You have white people picking blueberries, strawberries, uh, 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 vegetables. In Florida, white people don't pick those things, okay? Let's stop pretending it's not white people. It's people that we put in buses and send them back. Um, and that's the other reason why some of our products are up is because there's less people
To do
picking
the
up
work.
doing this work. But who's to fall for us? Us. We don't want them here, but we don't want to pick up
Right.
oranges. We don't want to pick up strawberries. We don't want to pick up blueberries, raspberry. But there's nobody else. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see how that pays off. But yes, restaurants are closing down because the cost of food has increased to a point that they cannot afford to sell it to the general public, and that is a problem. As a matter of fact, it's kind of even a joke. Why would Wendy's advertise nationally that son of the bacon is $3 is because of decrease in sales?
Mm. Right.
Yep. Okay, so I think it might be time to start off with the fuck up of the week. So let's start with the Democrats.
All right. The Democrats
Democrats.
are up. Oh boy. Oh, a lot of news about the Democrats recently. Let's go. What you got, Jimmy?
Let's start with the one that is in everybody's mind. Democrats are going to spend $20 million so they can learn how to talk to young people. I'm going to give you this one for free, Democrats. You don't have to spend $20 million for this one. Listen, sit down and bring in young people and say, hey, what's wrong with the party? What are we doing so wrong that you're voting against us or you're just not voting?
Yeah.
Why do you feel that we have abandoned you and left you down? Oh, well, maybe it's because you are not listening to us. We're talking about the environment, and seriously, it's not much that we believe you are doing. We think that you're part of the problem together with Republicans because you're not doing much. We're not into woke. We're not sure who is, but we're not into woke. We have a problem with student loans, and basically we're hoping that you're going to do something about it, but you really haven't done anything about it. We have problems with other issues that you're just not doing. You don't listen to us. The other thing is the leadership of our party is full of old farts. I'm sorry. You want the old farts to learn new tricks. You want the old farts. Look, the other day there was something that Schumer put out as from the Senate, and basically that thing came back that when it said, "Look, this makes no sense. This is not the way that Schumer talks," and it was because one of a 50-year-old person was the one who wrote the message, and obviously was using language that young people do not understand.
Yep.
Look, we are not listening. Some people in our party are very afraid to talk to the young people who think think that the people in Gaza are being murdered and they're being eliminated and that civilians are being killed and that they're not buying that the hospitals was full of Hamas people. They're not buying it. Okay, that's fine. You're not listening to that, but you're still going to do something about it. Look, listen and learn. The two L's. Listen and learn. But not only with the young people. I'll give,
Oh,
I'll give myself one. Right now, for years, I've said this, and it's becoming more and more and more obvious. The Democratic Party, the Democratic Party has taken for granted the two minorities, African Americans and Hispanics. They'll vote for us because the Republicans don't want them and don't like them. Well,
mm,
guess what? You're losing both votes because you're taking them for granted
that's right.
and you're doing nothing to help them. Here's even worse. Okay. Somebody said to me the other day, because I like to listen, and said to me, do you realize that the Democratic Party treats Hispanics and African Americans the same way? And when they go try to give them a slice of the pie, they give them the same size to both, even though right now in the United States, Hispanics almost double the numbers of African Americans. So no,
Mhm.
it's a fact of life. It's just so if there's $2 to give out, they give one to the African Americans and one to the Hispanics, and many Hispanics say, "Hey, wait a minute, we're a larger number by by a lot. Why are we getting the same?" And what why? And that is a legitimate comment. The other thing
Correct.
is that we're trying our best to accommodate what we think would work. Hispanics are not for open borders. We're not.
That's
African
right.
Americans are not for open borders. They're
No,
not. African Americans are not people who one of the top priorities is wokeness. They're not. They're really not. They care about other things, but that's not it. Hispanics, like African Americans, come from conservative religious beliefs
social.
that we don't want to talk about. They come from religious beliefs that really some of these woke ideas and stuff like that they do not accommodate.
That's right.
Uh, they tend to think that the LGBTQ community is in support of them because Republicans don't want them. Uh, right now, that's not selling at all. At all. It's not selling. It's not going through. It's not working. So at this point, we have a problem. The Democratic Party, again, you show them how you fucked up. You want to learn what you should know. Sorry, you don't have to spend $20 million to know how to deal with the young people. You should know that by now. If
Exactly, Jimmy.
if you just sit down and listen to them, you should know. Look, Hispanics and African Americans are leaving the party.
Oh, yes, they are.
And what are you doing? Keep assuming that they're going to stay with you. Okay? White man has left you years ago. Years ago.
That's right.
Not last week, years ago. And you keep saying, we have the female vote. No, you don't. The Hillary lost because females voted against her. Kamala
53%.
lost because females voted against her.
That's
So if
correct.
we have the female vote, please somebody tell me how that is true. You want to do something? Very simple. Look, we fucked up. We need to learn. We need to sit back and readdress this, and we need to bring in new leadership here. Get rid of all the old farts. And it's not a matter of age. It's a matter of people who have been there, comfortable for years, who live in a Washington set of mind. who the rest of the nation disagree with, including most Democrats. So basically, at this point, it is up to you. It's up to you to try to pretend that you care or really act like you care. This thing of I'm going to spend $20 million to learn how to talk to the young people. You're pretending that you care.
And at $20 million, you've got a luxury hotel conference room full of consultants coming up with this plan, and to take it even further, who they identify or those who have self-identified that they'll be able to speak to young people. This Juliana Olivia, a LGBTQ Latina activist within the party, stating that she's able to talk to the frat brothers and the young men, and she'll understand what they want in their politics, that they're supportive of BLM and abortion and other issues that just don't show that. And to take it even further, in the New York Times expose this past week, we're seeing the country trend more conservative. Trump won, or let me put it this way, counties shifted. A vast majority of counties shifted to the right versus to the left in this last election. Trump increases vote totals among those demographics that you just mentioned: Latinos, Black men, working class. Increase those totals in 2016, 2020, and 2024. Republicans are now considered the party of the working class. How the fuck did that happen?
It happened because basically, for years, the Democrats have left the Republicans framed them. Liberalism is something bad. Well, liberals got votes for women. Liberals got votes for African Americans. Liberals got working rights in this country. Liberals got a 40-hour week thing. Liberals passed laws that, such as the Voting Act, such as the Head Start, and all those other programs that today people disassociate. But what has happened is that for years the Republicans have not campaigned on this is what I'm going to do for you, but trashing the liberal and the Democrats. The Democrats have been too corrupt of trying to maintain power and not letting anybody else in there and pushing everybody away except the establishment, which they did with Hillary, which they did with all due respect with Biden, which they did with Kamala. And then they say, well, people don't. Look, we have our own corruption of people in power who will push. Are we framing the Republicans as the corrupt party? No, we're not. Look, I'll give you an example, Democrats, now that we're talking about your fuck up. Let me make it simple for you. Okay. The Republicans are the party of the corrupt who don't care about the working class, have done nothing to do for the working class. The big, beautiful bill has nothing that helps the working class at all. The tax exemptions were there. You're going to have the same amounts. They have not added anything to it. What they did is they extended what you already have. The only people who are getting a bigger tax breaks are the rich. Middle class, you're fucked. You're not getting anything extra. But they are the party that they don't care about you. All they care about is how can I make a buck to put in my pocket? How do I get a $400,000 jet? How do I get properties in my name in different countries? How do I get contracts that benefit me? I will have a dinner in Mar-a-Lago and for $1 million a person through Bitcoins, and you would have access to me. And if you give me $1 million, I will give you a pardon from jail. That's what we should be talking about. But what are we talking about? No, no, no. We're going to try to find out how to listen to kids. Fuck that. Just attack. The Republicans have been very efficient putting down liberals, putting them down as everything that's gone wrong in your life is because liberals have fucked you over. Well, guess what? It's time for us to reverse it. Everything that's wrong with your life, eggs are more expensive because conservatives don't give a shit about you. Okay? Everything is more expensive because the only thing that the Republican parties want is to make money and put it in their pocket. They don't care about you. Everything that is going wrong in this country, we're 6 months into Donald Trump's presidency. You can't continue blaming Biden. So basically, that's where you need to go. And you know what, Democrats? Use the word fuck. Use the word asshole. Use the word corrupt. Use the word these persons are fucking with you. They're lying to you. But we have class. Class has gotten us nowhere. With all due respect, the majority of Americans want somebody with two balls. And there's, I have to give credit to Donald Trump. Man has balls.
Yes, he does.
And
yes, he
our
does.
leadership has none. So, as a Democrat, I'm going to say to you, that's your fuck up of the week. And your task is to grow a brain and to grow some balls.
Jimmy.
Yes.
Is it also a fuck up of the week that the spokeswoman for the Biden-Harris administration, thus the Democrats, Karen Jean-Pierre,
became an independent?
That's correct. Has said that she has left the Democratic Party and is now an independent.
You know the only reason I have not left the Democratic Party?
Why?
Because I refuse to let the assholes who are currently leading my party to continue to lead it. I will do everything within my power to avoid that.
But Jimmy,
from the outside, we cannot fix the party. It's an easy way out, and I understand what she's doing,
right?
But I don't agree because what she's doing is letting the corrupt people who control the party to continue to control. What she should do is fighting them. That's why I like Dave Hugg. What he's doing is he's saying, fuck, I'm the vice chair of this party, and I'm going to criticize this party, and I'm going to tell you what you're doing is wrong. I'm not running away from this. And that's the problem that I have.
However, Jimmy, you, for 3 years, you laid out a 25-point plan to save the Democratic Party for 3 years now. It's out there, folks. Check it out. The 25 points, I cannot recall. I should know this by heart. We put it together. You put it together, Jimmy. And what are the fruits of your labor? Are they listening?
Yes.
I just don't see it.
I do. And let me tell you where I see it. If you see some of the new candidates that are running for office,
Jimmy, okay. All right. Okay. Good question. The city of Orlando.
Yes.
City Commission number 5, which you border, I live in, and we have, if I remember correctly, 4 or 5 candidates. Kimberly Kiss, Samuel Chambers, and I forgot her name already. Starts with the M. Her last name starts with the T. Forgive me. She's a city employee, and she has joined the race. And there's another candidate that just escapes my mind at this time. And Samuel Chambers is a current elected official, soil and water. Kiss is an attorney. And again, this last candidate is a city employee. And I believe, Kiss, the attorney, is an independent, if I remember correctly, looking at voter file. However, Chambers and the other candidate are Democrats. And so I'll just take the two of those individuals, and I look at them. Okay, Chambers is a young candidate. He's been involved in Democratic politics. And this other one, I haven't seen her in long-term Democratic local politics. However, she's getting the establishment to support her versus the establishment supporting Chambers, who's done the work, And I'm looking at this, Jimmy. It's like, how can someone who is pretty much new to the community, has done nothing close to Chambers, has done for the community, gets the institutional establishment support? This is just mind-boggling. It's, again, the Democrats shooting themselves in the foot.
Well, they do. And that's the problem. And that's why I'm still there, because if you remember, Barack Obama was not the establishment person. Okay.
True.
And he ended up being president of the United States.
That's true.
They had to do some major cheating to keep Bernie Sanders out of the presidency of the United States. That's
incredibly
true.
So. Yes.
They did some major cheating to prevent that anybody but Kamala Harris was that. And that's the thing that we need to be calling out, the corruption within our party. Look, to be quite honest, I'm going to say this. The Democrats did not support Maribel.
That's right.
They did not support the first time around, nor the second time around, really, Emily Bonilla. They really didn't.
That's true.
And they both got elected. Currently, the first time around, they did not really support Nicole. They just stayed in the sideline. They did not run anybody against her, but they did not support. The truth of the matter is, realistically, Kelly they supported because basically they had no choice. That even though there was some at the beginning, other people within the Democrat Party who liked the person from Maitland a little bit more, but it was not the full establishment. Okay, so yes, you have a problem. You have a problem with the local party, basically at this point probably trying to support somebody they think they can manipulate, somebody that they think they can control, somebody they don't think they control. They're going to be afraid of. So, yes, it is true. You're going to have that problem. But what I do with you and others is I tell my party, fuck you, I'm going to support the list candidate. And as a matter of fact, I'll tell you this right now. If in an Orange County, in the city of Orlando, you have the endorsement of the Democratic Party, I'm against you. And I'm a Democrat. If you have the endorsement of the local Democratic Party, I'm against you. Yes, I know that some of you are saying to me, what do I have against the local Democratic Party? I have nothing against the local Democratic Party. But there's a lot of people who control the party from outside that never show up. The Torres family, Cardi Dyer.
Correct. Scott Randolph, the tax collector.
Okay. And I could go on all day. Those people have nothing to do with the party, but they tend to control. Guess what? I have run against you candidates, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 5 times and beaten your candidates. So don't fuck with me because I'll take you out in a heartbeat. I am anti-establishment. And no, I'm not going to let these assholes control my party. Sorry. I'm not going to run away and say, I'm an independent because I'm frustrated. Am I frustrated? Yes. Sure. Do I think that things need to be changed? Yes. And every week I could say here with a straight face to my party to change. Okay? And bear with me. I've never missed a chance to criticize my party. And I never will. But I do it as a proud Democrat.
The woman who is running in the District 3 Orlando City Commissioner's race, her name is Tana, Mira, M-I-R-A, last name T-A-N-N-A, and she's a grants manager for the city of Orlando, and she's received a number of endorsements from the establishment here in Orlando. Right now, again, the major candidates are Miss Tanya, Samuel Chambers, and attorney Kimberly Kiss.
Let me put it this way in a very simple way. There used to be a comment that came out in the early 2000s. It was that the endorsement from the Orlando Sentinel was the kiss of death.
Right.
And the endorsement of the establishment of the Democratic Party could be the kiss of death. Because I'm going to say this, of the 5 commissioners of Orange County that are Democrats, currently, Kelly got help from the Democrats, but she was not endorsed by the establishment. Let's call it as it is.
Okay.
The local people in the Orange County Democratic Party helped her, but Buddy Dyer did not lift a finger, neither did some other people within the party. As a matter of fact, the hotel people went against her, and they went with the former mayor of Winter Park. Okay, and Buddy Dyer, for the record, endorsed the former mayor of Winter Park. Correct?
I believe so. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Okay, when I say she did not get the endorsement, that's what I'm trying to talk about. I did not see any of the other people endorsing her. Okay, I did not see the legislative delegation or anybody else endorsing her. Okay, so that's what I mean. We know about Maribel. We don't even have to go there. Okay, was not they were endorsing another person against her. Let's call it as it is. Nicole Wilson, she was the only Democrat in the race the first time around. So really, there was not much of a. But most Democrats would tell me privately that they didn't see Nicole having a chance to beat Betsy. Okay?
Yeah.
And you know that to be true.
That's true.
Okay. District 3, there was, at the first time around, there were people who were afraid of going against the Republicans, and they were very sketchy about endorsing Maida. Once she won, that was a different story. Okay, let's get District 6. The truth of the matter, they did endorse Scott, but it was because of who he was running against. Okay, and they didn't spend that much money in that race. Okay,
Yeah.
So look, I understand that people think that endorsements carry some weight. I don't think so. I really don't think so.
I
I
agree.
think that if anything, they hurt. If you don't like certain, look, if you're in a nonpartisan race and you have endorsement from Democrats and none from Republicans, that might be something else. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say this: almost everybody that Buddy Dyer endorsed has lost
That's right. Consistently.
consistently. So when people tell me, "Well, the establishment," what are you talking about? But being that as it may, we have reached a point that we must say adios, goodbye, sayonara, because both of us have to get ready for a meeting tonight. So I have some things I need to get out before I leave. But please, pretty please, subscribe. Pretty please, give us your comments. I don't care. Look, I've read them, and some of you attacked me. And to quote Marco Rubio, if you're attacking me, that's a sign that I'm doing something right.
I love it.
I'm going to take a Republican thing. Okay. The other thing is also, if you like it, let us know. And for the record, I'm not here to make you happy. I'm here to tell you the truth. Your problem is not federal employees. Your problem is corrupt politicians in Washington. Get rid of them. I'll see you next week. Take care.
Thank you, Jimmy. See you the next time.
Okay. Take care.
Bye now.